living longer, living healthier, living better than ever before. Welcome to Mountain Pacific's Healthy Living for Life, a weekly series that gives you the information, education, and expert insight you need to become an active participant in today's ever-changing healthcare climate. Here now is today's program host.
An apple a day keeps the doctor away. Starve a fever, but feed a cold. Don't go swimming right after you eat or you'll get a cramp. We all grew up hearing these little pieces of advice, but is there any truth in any of them? Welcome to Healthy Living for Life, a show dedicated to helping you do just that. I'm your host, Beth Brown, and today we're going to explore some of these old sayings about our health and either debunk them or find the truth behind them. Stay with us. Welcome back to Healthy Living for Life. Joining us first this morning is Lindsay Grauman, who is a registered dietitian and owner of the Northern Nutrition Group. And thanks so much for being with us this morning, Lindsay.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So this first question I have for you isn't really an old saying, but it's gone back and forth, and it's about eggs. And one year they're good for us, the next year they're not. What is the truth about the health of eggs?
Yeah, so the old egg adage. So this really is a myth that eggs are bad for you, but really only within the past about 10 years. The concern that people have with eggs is the cholesterol content, but the liver actually makes all of the cholesterol that the body needs, and so it absorbs very little from foods that we eat. So just a plug for cholesterol, it's a very important molecule in our body because it makes cell membranes. It's an important part of hormones and vitamin D. And overall, it would take a very large amount of egg consumption to actually affect your cholesterol. So I don't think that this answer is going anywhere anytime soon.
Okay, great. So have eggs for breakfast, or I guess whenever people would like to eat them. Here's another one that a lot of people love, but also can get a bad rap, and that's chocolate, especially among teenagers with the whole chocolate can cause acne. Let's talk about that one.
Yeah. So the simple answer here is no. There's no direct link between any component found in chocolate and acne. But eating an excessive amount of anything with a fat content in it, so we're talking many normal size chocolate bars per day, every day, may trigger a type of inflammatory response in the body that could lead to acne, but it's because of the fat content, not because of the chocolate. And you already have to be prone to acne to experience the acne. And even then, it's not guaranteed. So again, simple answer, eat the chocolate in moderation.
Okay, perfect. And it sounds like maybe anything that's high fat might be something that could cause that inflammatory response.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So this is a good one. I think it's positive if it's true. And that's the idea that carrots improve our vision. And especially we can see better at night if we eat carrots. Is that true?
Sure. So mixed results here. So carrots are absolutely good for our overall eye health due to the levels of vitamin A that are in them. But there's no evidence that it actually improves or makes your vision better, especially at night. However, the slight difference is that within a vitamin A deficiency, that could lead to night blindness. So you want to make sure, carrots are a great source of vitamin A, and so eating them will maintain your eye health, but not necessarily make it even better than your baseline.
Okay, great. Here's another one I think we hear a lot, and that's that eating turkey, especially around Thanksgiving, those folks who cook those big turkeys, makes you sleepy. And if I'm saying this right, it's the tryptophan in it that has something that makes you sleepy. Is that true, or do we just like to nap on holidays?
Yeah, so there actually is some truth to this one. Turkey does contain that amino acid called tryptophan, and tryptophan plays a role in the production of melatonin and serotonin, which can help calm us down and sleep. However, the amount of tryptophan alone on Thanksgiving is not likely to make you sleepy. There's probably other factors at play, like a larger meal on Thanksgiving, a loud or chaotic environment all day, getting up early to cook, etc. All of these things can lead to that fatigued feeling, but turkey alone probably isn't the culprit.
Okay, so it is just liking to nap. So let's talk about the one that I mentioned before the break. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. And that goes way back, I think. So is there something really great in apples that really improves our health that we can stay out of the exam room?
Yeah, so as you may have guessed, this one is a bit extreme and it is a myth. So while they might not protect you against, every illness and never having to see a doctor, there are still great benefits of apples and reasons to include them in your diet, like the fiber content, which is good for your digestion. They're very high in vitamin C, which is a vital vitamin, and they're high in potassium, which is a vital mineral. And so eating an apple a day very, very likely will not keep you out of the exam room, but including them in your diet is probably a good choice. Okay,
great. Let's talk about some other foods that we hear when it comes to sort of treating ailments. And so one is like chicken noodle soup when we have a cold, or people say, put honey on your throat if you have a sore throat. Can you talk about some of those as far as using those to treat what ails you?
Yeah. So chicken noodle soup is a great option when you're sick because it is highly nourishing, especially when appetite is low. Usually when you're sick, you're not feeling great, you don't have a big appetite. And so the nutrients in chicken noodle soup can help, like the veggies, the carrots and the celery can help with the immune system. The chicken broth can help provide hydration and electrolytes that you need when you're sick. The chicken itself provides protein, which can help healing, and the noodles can make you feel full and provide you with enough energy, which we know we need food and calories to help us heal when we're sick. The steam from the broth can also help open up nasal passages to help you breathe a little bit better. So chicken noodle soup, it won't cure you or make you get better faster, but it can provide your body with a lot of good nutrients to help you get back to baseline. When it comes to honey, there actually is some research that shows that honey could be a useful cough suppressant and easing throat discomfort. There's also some research around honey having an antimicrobial and an anti-inflammatory property, but there's really nothing conclusive. So if it makes you feel better, eat it. But make sure not to give it to any infants under the age of 1.
Oh, that's good advice. Okay, that's it, Lindsay. We're out of time, but thank you so much for running through all of those with us. It was great.
Yeah, thanks so much, Beth.
And we'll be right back after these messages to talk about some more sayings we heard as a kid and probably still hear today. Truth or fiction? We'll be back. Stay with us. Welcome back. Joining us now this morning is Dr. Doug Kunzweiler, Chief Medical Officer for Mountain Pacific, and we're so thankful to have you on the show again, Dr. K.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Always a fun conversation, and these are some fun ones too, so let's start.
Oh, I thought this was the serious segment.
Oh, no. We don't have to be serious ever.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so let's talk about cracking your knuckles and whether or not that causes harm and arthritis, which I think a lot of us have heard or been warned about.
Yeah, my mother always yelled at me when I was a kid about that, but it turns out that it's completely harmless. And what's happening when you stretch the joint, there air bubbles form in the joint fluid, and they are popping and crackling just like when you open a can of pop. So, but no long-term effects, so crack away.
Okay, is it good for you? Or no, it's just
no,
not
it's
bad
neutral.
For you.
It's not particularly good or particularly bad.
Okay. What about this
It's
thing?
annoying.
Oh, so. Yeah, for other people who have to listen to it. Yeah, that's true. So some get bugged by it more than others. Yeah. How about the old saying, starve a fever, feed a cold? Is that medically sound advice?
Well, it was in the 1500s probably, but no, there doesn't seem to be much to that. So in general, if you're ill with a cold or a fever, rest, a light diet, lots of fluids is probably the way to go. Okay. Starving yourself is not particularly advantageous.
Yeah, ever. Okay, good. So let's stick with the idea of colds and talk about if you can get sick, a cold or the flu, by going out into the cold or going outside with wet hair, which that was something my mom was like, you're going to catch your death. True or false?
Yeah, well, it's false. There's a slight grain of truth to it. If you are cold, your body's immune system slows down a little. So if you're out in the cold, your immune system isn't working as well. I think where this came from, though, is in the wintertime, we do see a big increase in colds and respiratory viruses like flu. But that's thought to be mostly because people are indoors a lot more. You're in more crowded situations. It doesn't really have much to do with being cold.
Okay. So I don't think this one is that old, but I'm not sure. It's the old 5-second rule, or I've even heard some people say 10-second rule of dropping food.
So this is a favorite at high school science fairs.
Yeah. Do we have a time where if we hurry up and pick up the food, germs won't get on it?
Yeah, it's probably not a good idea. It really depends on the type of food. If it is a food that is moist and relatively flat, and it falls on a flat surface, we know that it can pick up bacteria essentially instantly. So it's probably not a good idea. Things that are dry and rough, like crackers maybe, and if they fall on a clean surface, that's probably not going to kill you. But
germs build your immune system.
If you drop your steak on a dirty surface, I probably wouldn't eat it.
Okay, that's good advice. All right, this one is sort of on a different lane here, but you know, we look at our arms, you can see your veins and they're blue.
Oh yeah.
And I always understood that was because there's no oxygen, so it's blue, but then if you cut yourself, it's because oxygen gets in there and then it turns red. Talk to us about that.
All blood is red. Arterial blood, which is the oxygenated blood, is a little bit brighter shade, but venous blood is red also. What you're seeing is the material that the veins are made out of. It absorbs red light and it reflects blue and green light. So that's why your veins look rather blue.
Okay, interesting. All right, this is one that I mentioned a little bit earlier too, about not eating right after you swim. And some people say you have to wait 30 minutes, some people you have to wait 60 minutes. Will we get a cramp if we swim right after we eat?
Yeah, my mother fell in the 1 hour.
Oh
class.
yeah,
She was pretty sure I would die if I got in the water. I don't know where that came from. There's absolutely no truth to it. And if you think about it, you know, construction workers eat a hearty lunch and then go right back to pounding iron into the ground or whatever they're doing, and they don't drop over with the cramps. So I suppose there's a tiny grain of truth in that when you are digesting, a little blood is diverted to your stomach, but no, you're not going to drown if you hop in the water after eating.
Okay, phew. So this is one I think parents said a lot too, about don't swallow your gum because it doesn't digest, or it takes 7 years to digest. What's that about? Do we all have a bunch of gum stuck in our bellies?
What I want to know is who measured the 7 years and how did they do it?
That was quite the study.
No. Again, there's a grain of truth in this. Gum is not digestible. It's mostly a cellulose plant wall material, and we can't digest it. So theoretically, if you swallowed a lot of gum over a long period of time, you probably could give yourself an obstruction. But occasionally swallowing your gum it's not going to cause you anything at all.
Okay, maybe just better to throw it away anyway, though. How about
you're supposed to stick it under your grade school chair because
or tables.
It's archived there.
Yeah, high school's covered in gum.
Yeah.
So this one is about kids too, and sitting too close to the television and whether that can hurt your eyes. And I mean, we are on so many screens these days. So talk to us about that.
Yeah. I think it lowers your IQ, but I don't think it has much to do with vision. No, you won't go blind. You will get eye strain though. The closer you sit, the more your eye muscles have to move to follow the action. So your eyes might get tired, you might get eye strain, but you're not going to go blind. It doesn't actually affect your vision.
Okay, good to know. I think we have time for one more. So let's talk about the toddlers out there who suck their thumbs and whether or not that can ruin their teeth.
Orthodontists tell me that if they do it for a prolonged period of time, like if they're 6, 7 years old and they're still sucking their thumb, they actually can alter, just like braces, they can alter the shape of the mouth. So a toddler, a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old occasionally sucking their thumb, it's probably not a big deal, but if it persists, if they do it a lot, if it's really vigorous, you might want to look into trying to curb that.
Okay, sounds good.
Like
all right.
Cutting the thumb off is my usual advice.
That's the solution,
yeah.
right?
That works.
I always heard
it works well.
it would work. It seems extreme.
Yeah.
I always heard putting Tabasco on the thumb or something.
Yeah, there's all kind of, ask Grandma. Grandmas have all the advice on thumbs.
Okay, perfect. All right, we do need to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about what we've heard about what might cause cancer and whether there's truth in that or where the cancer risks really lie. Stay with us. We'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back to Healthy Living. We're still talking with Dr. Doug Kunzweiler, Chief Medical Officer for Mountain Pacific, and now we're going to talk about those rumors about what can cause cancer. A lot of people are scared of cancer and try to avoid it.
Sure.
This is a big one because we all have cell phones. We carry them around, we're on them. Can cell phones cause cancer?
Well, that actually has been studied quite a bit because especially when cell phones became ubiquitous, a couple decades ago, there was a lot of concern about that. Cell phones operate on radio waves, and the data so far, and there's a lot of data, a lot of studies, there doesn't seem to be any association between cancer and cell phone use. Radio waves, we have been around for a long time, for 100 years or more, and don't appear to have any ill effects on human beings. I think it's something to keep an eye on because there is still ongoing research and the technology changes. The phones get bigger and more powerful, and, but right now it doesn't appear that there's any association.
Okay, few for now. So another one are deodorants or antiperspirants and some chemicals in there. Should people be worried about which deodorant or antiperspirant they're choosing? Yeah,
so again, there have been a lot of studies on this, especially the spray-on deodorants that contain aluminum. And there are some studies in mice, particularly, where it can be associated with an increased risk of cancer. So far, the human studies haven't been very convincing. I think a lot of times in these situations where there is an alternative, a suitable alternative, it's prudent to use the alternative and maybe stay away from the aluminum containing deodorants until we have better data. But it's certainly not definite at this point.
Okay, that's good to know. I've also heard the chemicals in hair dyes might be a concern.
Yeah, again, that's been studied quite a bit, and in general, for the general public, there doesn't seem to be any significant risk. For people who have high exposure, which would be primarily hairstylists, if they're not wearing gloves especially, there is an increased incidence of some types of skin cancer. So that's something to think about.
Okay. You talked about radio waves. What about using microwaves and whatever is coming off of those? Any risk there?
Not from cancer, no. Again, they've been looked at pretty closely. Microwaves are very potent energy waves, but they don't travel very far. And they don't seem to really go past the door of the microwave oven. The biggest risk from microwaves is that they actually superheat water, and there's significant scalding risk. So you have to be very careful when you're taking food that's been prepped and those out. But they don't seem to be a cancer risk.
Okay, what about for those folks who have pacemakers? I've heard that microwaves can mess with pacemakers, is that right?
Microwaves actually don't affect pacemakers. That's not a risk. But okay. Pacemakers are manipulated by magnets, turned on, turned off, have their rates altered by magnets. So being around powerful magnets sometimes is a risk. And I would say that if you've had a pacer implanted, you should talk to your cardiologist about things to avoid. Some of these electrical stimulating devices, like the ones that are supposed to develop your abs in 3 hours that you put on, it's probably not a great idea to put those on if you have a pacemaker. And being around powerful magnets is probably not a great idea. But I would talk to your cardiologist about your specific pacemaker and what the precautions should be.
Okay, perfect. That's good advice. Let's switch and talk about food we eat and red meat and whether there's risk for cancer in our red meat.
Yeah, sadly I grew up in Iowa, big beef raising part of the country, and a diet that is heavy in red meat is associated with increased colorectal cancer. And processed meats, the sausages and that sort of thing, bacon, They do carry an increased risk. That's not to say that you can't eat them, but you should eat them in moderation, maybe once or twice a week.
Okay.
The beef growers are going to hate me.
No, well, and that's the good stuff too, especially bacon.
Yeah.
What about the crops and GMOs and some of the things that get sprayed or put into the food that we eat? Can you talk about those and if there are any risks there?
Yeah, I think the GMOs, which are just another way of selecting plants and altering plants to suit our needs, and people have done that for centuries just by natural selection. This is new gene therapy where they're actually selecting characteristics and putting that into the DNA of plants. It makes people nervous to hear about that, but that's been pretty well studied, and there don't seem to be any ill effects from that. Now, the use of pesticides, insecticides, herbicides, that's a different story, and people probably have some reason to be concerned about that. And in general, you should try to limit your exposure to those.
Okay. So this is one I had not heard, but evidently is a concern for folks who already have cancer and have to have surgery, and the idea that air exposure makes a tumor grow faster. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I don't really know where that came from either. I had heard that even as a kid, and it turns out that exposure to oxygen actually inhibits the growth of cancerous cells. So there's no truth to it at all, and I don't know. I don't know where it came from, but you don't need to worry about it.
For me, that was interesting. Okay, so we're almost out of time, Dr. Kunstler. We talked about a lot of things that are true, are a little bit true, aren't true. Where can people go to get good information about their health?
Well, you can get a lot of information at your local bar, but I wouldn't recommend it because
that's not where the experts
are. It's usually not terribly reliable. I think the best source is, first of all, go to your primary care provider, and pick somebody that you trust, and that's somebody that's honest with you, and somebody who will tell you if they don't know the answer, but they know how to find it. So that's where I would start. I know what people are really going to do, and that's go to the internet.
Sure.
And that's okay, but look at reliable sites like the Mayo Clinic, the Cleveland Clinic, Johns Hopkins, Harvard Medical School. They all have a lot of really valuable information on their websites, and they're reliable. Center for Disease Control, World Health Organization, their websites also are reliable. So that's where I would recommend people look.
Great. Thank you very much. We're out of time, so that's it. But thanks. Really good information.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And I want to thank Lindsey Grauman once again for being on, and thank you so much for joining us. We hope you'll come back and see us again next weekend. Until then, stay fit, stay well, and stay healthy for life with Healthy Living for Life. Have a great week, everybody.
Healthy Living for Life is brought to you by Mountain Pacific Quality Health. We'd love to hear from you. If you have suggestions for future programs, visit our website at mpqhf.org or call us at 406-443-4020. You can also catch us on YouTube by visiting our website and clicking on the Healthy Living for Life logo. Production facilities provided by Video Express Productions.